Beneath the Vatican, in a two-level underground bunker beneath the courtyard of the Pinecone, there are 85 kilometres of shelving, 12 centuries of documents, 35,000 volumes of catalogue, and a collection so vast, so carefully controlled, that even qualified scholars must apply months in advance, submit letters of recommendation from established universities, pass an interview conducted entirely in Italian, and then they are permitted to see only the specific documents they asked for. Nothing more. The Vatican has been accumulating this archive since the 1st century of Christianity, and everything dated after 1958, everything from the modern era, is still completely closed. This is the story of what is inside, what we know, what we suspect, and what they may never let us see. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, formerly known as the Vatican Secret Archives, was formally established as a separate entity from the Vatican Library by Pope Paul V in 1612. But its origins stretch back centuries further. The archives contain some of the Catholic Church's most impressive treasures, documents that date back from the 8th century. The documents are kept on shelves that extend for more than 85 kilometres. A significant portion of the collection is stored in the bunker, a secure underground vault with 2 levels, located beneath the Cortile della Pigna in the Vatican museums. The archive remained closed altogether to outsiders until the late 19th century, when Pope Leo XIII opened the archive to researchers, more than 1,000 of whom now examine some of its documents each year. 1,000 scholars, out of 8 billion people, and they can only see what they specifically asked for. Some of what lies inside the archive is documented and extraordinary. Inside the Vatican archives is a letter from Mary, Queen of Scots, addressed to Pope Sixtus V, sent months before her scheduled execution, where she requests him to save her life and free her from prison. Unfortunately, the Pope decided not to interpose, and Mary was executed in 1587. The Vatican Archives contains the papal bull barring Martin Luther from the Church, written by Pope Leo X in 1521. There is a 997-foot-long scroll containing the minutes of the trials of the Knights Templar, which lasted for several years, starting in 1307. There is Henry VIII's petition to Pope Clement VII, requesting an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, signed by over 80 English lords and clergymen. And there is a letter from Michelangelo to the Pope, complaining that the Vatican guards had not been paid for 3 months. Even genius requires a payslip, but the truly significant documents are the ones that reveal the Church's role in the great events of history. Inside the archive are the complete records of the trial of Galileo Galilei, the astronomer who told the world that the Earth moved around the Sun. The Church convicted him of heresy in 1633, forced him to recant, and placed him under house arrest for the rest of his life. The trial records are in there, every word. In 1992, Pope John Paul II formally acknowledged that the Church had been wrong about Galileo. It had taken 359 years. The documents that show exactly what happened, what was said, what was decided, are in that archive. And the question that historians keep asking is not just what happened to Galileo. It is what else, in those 85 kilometres of shelving, the Church was wrong about and has not yet admitted. The most contested documents in the entire archive relate to the Second World War. Documents may show the Church was complicit in Mussolini's state-sponsored terror and possibly even in Hitler's anti-Semitic pogroms. For decades, the Vatican's wartime conduct, its relationship with the Nazi regime, its silence during the Holocaust, was the subject of fierce historical debate. In 2002, Pope John Paul II allowed scholars access to documents pertaining to the Holy See's relations with Germany during the pontificate of Pope Pius XI, in order to put an end to unjust and thoughtless speculation about the Church's relationship with the Nazi Party. Some of those documents exonerated the Church, others deepened the questions. But everything after 1958 remains sealed. And the papacy of Pius XII, the wartime pope, the one at the center of the most serious allegations, is precisely the period most historians most want to see. Parts of the archive remain classified, in the modern sense of the word, secret. Most of these classified materials, which are actively denied to outsiders, relate to contemporary personalities and activities, including everything dated after 1958, as well as the private records of church figures after 1922. Think about what falls inside that window. The full papacy of Pius XII, the Second Vatican Council, the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II in 1981, the Vatican bank scandal, the decades of abuse cover-ups, all of it within the sealed period, all of it in those 85 kilometers of shelving. The Vatican has a rule: documents become accessible no earlier than 75 years after the close of a pope's reign. The Church moves at the pace of centuries, and by the time the sealed documents open, many of the people they implicate will be long beyond accountability. The wildest theories about the Vatican archive involve aliens, suppressed gospels, devices that can see the future. The reality is both more mundane and more genuinely troubling. The archive is not a dungeon of forbidden secrets. It is a climate-controlled warehouse of administrative records. But a study in 1969 stated that the archive's cataloguing system was so inadequate that it remained an extensive, buried city, a Herculaneum inundated by the lava of time. Secret as an archaeological dig is secret. Nobody knows everything that is in there, not even the Vatican. In 85 kilometers of shelving, spanning 12 centuries, catalogued imperfectly, there may be documents nobody has read in 500 years. What they say is genuinely unknown. The Vatican is slowly digitizing parts of its collection. Some documents are now available online. The pace is glacial. 12 centuries of material cannot be scanned overnight. But the direction of travel is towards openness, however slowly. In 2012, 100 documents from the archive were placed on public display for the first time in history. Thousands queued. The world was fascinated. Because whatever the archive actually contains, the idea of it contains something we all understand. The idea that somewhere, in a vast underground vault, beneath the oldest institution in the Western world, there are answers to questions we haven't been allowed to ask. Whether or not that is true, it tells us something important about the human relationship with power. We have always suspected that those at the top know more than they are telling us. And in the case of the Vatican, we may not be entirely wrong. If stories like this make you want to know what else is being kept from the rest of us, you're in exactly the right place. We find the most fascinating hidden histories on Earth every single week. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.